Welcome back to Relaxin, the number one lacrosse podcast in the world. Episode 2 is brought to you by Fliff Casino. Special thanks to our sponsor. Fliff Casino is a sports betting app that gives you a free $1 a day, and you can turn it into real cash. Join now with promo code FREECRITTER for an extra 100% deposit bonus.
We just finished up a crazy week of lacrosse.
Yeah, this weekend we just had a really exciting rematch of the last year's national championship between Maryland and Notre Dame. And Maryland actually got it done. Their defensive mid unit was just absolutely king. Just laying hammers down left and right and just brought home the W with over 10,000 fans in attendance.
Yeah, and then Logan McNaney, their goalie, played crazy. He had 16 saves. He had 4 stops in the final 2 minutes of the game, twice on doorsteps to Chris Kavanaugh, who was a possible, Tewaaraton winner this year, and they ended up holding Notre Dame's offense to just 10 goals, and they were up by 2, 11-9 with about a minute and 45 seconds left, and McNaney came up big and ended up allowing Maryland to beat Notre Dame 11-10.
And then we got to see an exciting matchup between a really hot UNC team right now. They're coming off a heater the last couple games with Dom Petramala and Owen Duffy, just one of the most dominant duos in NCAA lacrosse right now. But they actually fell short to Princeton. Princeton took home that victory.
Yeah, Princeton moved up to number 4 in the country now, and UNC moved back to 6. UNC just got their first loss to Princeton. Princeton also came down and beat Duke earlier in the week. So Princeton ended up having kind of a doubleheader where they came on a trip. They played both North Carolina teams, Duke and North Carolina.
Who are both powerhouses right now, too.
As well as Penn, who came down and also played Duke and North Carolina. I believe so. Penn lost to North Carolina earlier in the week before North Carolina ended up playing Princeton, but then they ended up also losing to Duke 11-6 later in the week. So both of, I guess, basically all teams, they just rotated where it was a Ivy League and an ACC matchup, and Princeton ended up coming out undefeated, while Duke also Duke ended up, the rest of them ended up being 1-1, and then Penn ended up being 0-2. So very successful weekend for Princeton, and hopefully they'll come off of this with a really, big fire.
Yeah, and Princeton's Coulter McAsee, who's a Tewaaraton watch candidate, he came up big against UNC.
Yeah, against UNC he had 3 goals. Him and Chad Palumbo, they both played outstanding for Princeton against UNC, and it kind of wasn't really expected that Princeton would win because although, yes, they are proven to be one of the top teams in the country, I think people thought that UNC would be even better. And I guess it kind of wasn't really expected. And, also another Ivy League, Cornell, they played Richmond. Richmond, moved up in the ranks. They were 14. Now they're actually 13, so they still moved up even with a loss to Cornell. Cornell beat them by 1. Cornell was actually down by 6 at one point.
CJ Kurse is just so good.
Yeah, 21.
God, he's just so good.
CJ Kurse has 21 goals and 9 assists this year. So, in only 4 games. So that's pretty insane. 30 points in 4 games. But yeah, Richmond, they were up. Richmond was up 9-4 at one point, and then Cornell ended up coming back and winning 12-11. CJ Kurse scored that last goal for Cornell when they needed it. So that really came out and played with a fire. We really have been waiting on Cornell to show.
Yeah, and on top of that, Hopkins and Virginia just had a really spicy matchup. Virginia, coming off the past couple of years of just being an absolute powerhouse, especially in the ACC, they just fell to 20 after that loss against Hopkins. Hopkins looks really good this year.
Yeah, Virginia lost by 1, only 13-12 to Hopkins, who is, they're now 5-1. They beat Georgetown, Towson, Denver, Loyola. Denver was in the Final Four last year, and their only losses by 1 to North Carolina, who looks like one of the hottest teams in college lacrosse right now. But nobody really expected Virginia to be the way they are. They're 2-3 right now, still in the top 20, but they started off as a top 5, top 6 team in the country. But then they fell to Ohio State pretty badly. Fell to Richmond, who has now moved up the ranks. But they did beat Colgate, who's sitting at 14 right now. did beat High Point, but they haven't really found their big statement win yet. Their offense is struggling a lot, trying to find points amongst their top scorers. They've got McCabe Millen, former number 1 recruit in the 2023 class, and Truett Sunderland, who are kind of their 2 top scorers. But they're just not finding consistency out of anybody, and they're trying to figure themselves out. Their defense is playing the best they can with the lack of offensive production, so it's kind of killing them a little bit. But now Navy is just in front of Virginia as they just jumped Virginia. Virginia
but you know that Navy schedule is just really not that strong.
Well, they played Iona. Obviously, they're not good, but Towson, solid Towson team. They were in the NCAA tournament last year. They have the top midfielder in the country right now, Mikey Weishauer. They played Penn State, only lost by 6, and then they just beat Boston, who's a really talented team this year. So they're doing pretty well right now. They're 4-1. Beat High Point in their opener, but when you're 4-1, you're doing something good. So now they're in the top 20, sitting at 19. But then the other military school, Army, 5-0. They've beaten Rutgers pretty badly, 9-3. Killed Yale, destroyed Mercer, destroyed Lafayette, destroyed UMass. So they've pretty much beaten every team by eight or more.
You gotta look at that strength of schedule there. Their only really powerhouse team that they played so far has been Yale. High Point,
Rutgers
mediocre.
is pretty good, not horrible. But Yale was ranked when they played them, and nobody expected that.
And honorable mention to Mercyhurst. Their first season as Division I program. They've had a rocky start, but they just picked up their first win against Hampton, the Hampton Pirates.
The worst team in college lacrosse.
Yeah, they arguably a high school team could beat them. From North Dakota. This is just absolutely ridiculous watching their track record.
Lacrosse game since being D1. They're the only team to do it. Anyway, back to Army. Army's got the best goalie in college lacrosse currently. He's got a 74% save percentage, 56 saves, 20 goals allowed. Insane. That's absolutely insane. He's got a goal of his own as well. They've got 2 guys with over 25 points on the season in just 5 games, which is a very good start. They've got one of the top midfielders coming back off an injury, Evan Plunkett. They've got best face-off guy in the country, Will Coletti. He's now a senior. They're, one of the toughest teams in the country, and they're going to be one of the toughest teams to beat.
And that's all we got for episode 2 of Relaxin. Thank you, Fliff Casino, for sponsoring this episode. Everyone be sure to sign up with code FREECRITTER, 100% deposit match. Yep, we'll see you next time.